Okay, so we're diving deep today into the world of Bob Camblin.
Yeah, this will be good.
It's going to be really interesting. We've got a ton of material to go through, um, quotes from Camblin himself, biographical information. We've got reviews of his work, and even a YouTube discussion.
Wow. Yeah, you really pulled out all the stops.
Had to for this one.
Yeah.
The goal is to really get you familiar with Camblin's work and his whole philosophy as an artist. I think what grabs you right away with him is this sort of mystery around the guy.
Yeah, total enigma.
He's super respected
Mm.
among other artists. People want his pieces, but he was also kind of elusive, not really out there seeking fame or anything.
Right, and his work can be hard to find even though he was prolific, worked in so many different mediums.
Hmm.
Oils, acrylics, watercolors, drawings, prints, and then these really cool painted paper pieces.
Yeah, it all just adds to the intrigue, right?
Absolutely. And when you start to dig into all this stuff about his life, you realize how much his personal journey and his intellectual curiosity fed into his art. I mean, he was born in Oklahoma in 1928, and his passion for art really took off at the Kansas City Art Institute. Then he gets a Fulbright scholarship, takes him to Italy, total immersion in European art history. Later on, he's balancing teaching at different schools with his own work in the studio.
Right. And thinking about those early years in Oklahoma, all that stuff about the Marlin Estate, that big fancy house from the oil boom and the Pioneer Woman statue,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder how much those images stuck with him, how they might have influenced his style.
Absolutely. There's this idea of verisimilitude in his art, like this sense of being grounded in reality, even when his work gets more abstract. And then you see those VV initials popping up in his
All
paintings.
right, a tribute to his mother, Viva Camblin.
Exactly. It's like she's his own personal pioneer woman, you know?
I like that. And he wasn't just about visual stuff either. He was a total bookworm. Loved Emerson, the I Ching haiku and haiga.
You know, thinking about it, those haiga with their focus on simple everyday moments and deeper meanings, that totally seems like something that would resonated with Camblin and might have shaped how he captured those fleeting moments in his own work.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like finding the profound in the everyday. It's like that connects to his interest in Zen philosophy later on.
Yeah.
Then, of course, there's his time in the Korean War and sketching along the California coast, all these experiences that must broaden his perspective.
For sure. And that time in Italy was huge, not just seeing the masterpieces in the Uffizi Gallery, but also his experience in the Capuchin catacombs in Palermo with all those preserved bodies. That really messed with him, apparently led to these recurring mummy images in his work.
Wow, yeah, that's intense.
And when you look at his take on Botticelli's Birth of Venus and Primavera, he throws in things like KPFT radio and all this hidden imagery. It's like he's having this conversation with art history, but in his own totally unique and modern way.
Definitely. It's
Yeah.
like he wasn't just interested in the technical stuff or following trends. He wanted to connect with the viewer on a deeper level, almost a spiritual level, I think.
Totally. And his early work did touch on social protests, but then it evolved into this blend of social realism and non-objectivity, exploring human symbols in these new ways.
Yeah, it's so interesting how he pulls from all these different influences, like Monini with those kind of creepy, dreamlike figures and the ancient Etruscan terracotta figures.
Yeah.
And then in the 70s, he comes up with this Muchas Volantes style.
Ah, yes, flying flies in French.
Right.
Right. It's got that data influence, questioning all the rules, and that surrealist vibe tapping into the subconscious stuff.
Camblin uses these dots and dashes to create optical illusions, kind of like Escher or Dali.
Yeah, trippy stuff. And it's so cool how that technique itself ties into his themes of illusion and impermanence, because those Musha Volantes, they're not static. They change depending on how you look at them.
Yeah.
Then you've got those later works like Big Al and Descent from the Cross.
Oh, yeah, those are powerful pieces.
Yeah.
Total mastery of his craft. But he's still weaving in those symbolic narratives, those layers of meaning.
It all adds to the enigma, right? The iconoclastic and enigmatic style. And the fact that his work isn't easy to find just makes it more alluring.
Exactly. So then in 1976, Camblin makes this huge decision. He leaves teaching to focus solely on his art.
Wow. Talk about commitment.
Right. It wasn't just a career change, it was a whole lifestyle shift. He starts living this nomadic life, funding his travels and his art through sales and commissions.
He went all over, too. Italy, France, Ireland, Mexico, the South Pacific. Imagine the inspiration he must have soaked up.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And we get this amazing window into his thinking during this period in the book, Zen and the Art of Enlightenment, Vol. 1. It's full of his personal drawings and reflections from the 50s to the 70s stuff that wasn't meant for the public.
Wow, so it's like we're getting this unfiltered look into his creative process.
Exactly. It's like peeking into his private sketchbook. And it's not just about him being this solitary artist either. He was really into collaborating, especially during his time in Houston.
Right. Those partnerships with Earl Staley and Joe Tate, B&E Productions, and the holding firm, they were all about the collaborative process itself, putting on these events and exhibitions like the tattoo show and the camping show. They weren't afraid to push boundaries.
Totally. And
Yeah.
this whole collaborative spirit really speaks to his philosophy. He was all about moving beyond the ego, which is why he often signed his work as anonymous or anonymous artists. It's like he's challenging the idea of the artist as this lone genius.
Mm.
And he had a complicated relationship with the art world, too.
Yeah.
Sometimes refusing payment for his work and having very specific ideas about how it should be displayed. He wanted the environment to be part of the art itself.
It's like he was curating the whole experience.
Right.
And when you look at the reviews and quotes you picked out, one of the big themes that jumps out is this idea of paradoxes made visible.
Yeah, like those traps that don't trap or structures that don't move, those disappearing objects. It's like he's making us question our assumptions about how things work.
Absolutely. He's exploring illusion, the idea that what we see isn't always the truth. And then there's this fascination with impermanence, the fact that everything is constantly changing. And it's kind of ironic, right, how we try to hold on to things that are inherently fleeting.
Totally. And that image of the figure four trap is so powerful. It represents that feeling of being stuck, but also those unseen forces that shape our lives. And then he contrasts that with this sense of stillness, this quiet strength that endures, even amidst all the chaos.
It's like he's saying that even though everything's in flux, there's still this underlying stability. And he didn't see art as giving us all the answers. It was more about asking the right questions with philosophy, providing maybe some partial insights.
Right, and he was so good at blending abstraction with these really powerful symbols drawing on ancient wisdom like Zen and the I Ching, but always with a modern twist. It's like he's bridging the gap between these old and new ways of seeing the world.
And what's really cool for the listener is how his work becomes more than just something to look at. It's like a portal to greater awareness. It makes you think. It's all about that Zen idea of direct experience and the I Ching's concept of constant change.
Right, it's about finding that everyday enlightenment, seeing the beauty in the unexpected, finding humor even in decay, accepting that impermanence is just part of life.
Someone described his drawings as koans that disrupt linear thought patterns, which is so perfect. A koan is that Zen riddle that's meant to jolt you into enlightenment. And his paintings with all the hidden meanings and puzzles and those traps, for the viewer, they demand that you really engage with them to unlock the deeper layers.
Totally. It's like he's saying, don't just passively look at this. Think about it. Question your assumptions.
Exactly. And then there's that quote where he says he wants to remake Goya in 20th century terms, which is fascinating. Goya was all about portraying the raw human experience, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I think Camblin was grappling with those same big existential questions, but in his own distinct visual language.
Yeah, for sure. And the imagery he uses is so rich with meaning. You got the scarecrows, the lobster shells, the puppets, the empty larva shells, the skulls of those glass reliquaries with the murky water. And then the connections to writers like Nikos Kazantzakis and Günter Grass. It all points to this deep engagement with human nature and the big philosophical questions.
It's like he's creating this myth-making machine with these richly detailed surfaces that hint at hidden depths. And the more you look, the more ambiguities you find. It's a constant process of discovery.
So let's talk about that YouTube transcript, Shelter in the Impermanence. That image of the mother and child under the umbrella is so striking.
Oh, yeah, right away. There's something deeper going on there.
The umbrella becomes this symbol of refuge, this temporary sanctuary in a world that's constantly changing. And the way they describe the wind and the restless sky really emphasizes that feeling of impermanence. But within that small space, the child finds comfort and safety in the mother's arms.
It's a beautiful visual representation of that Zen teaching about impermanence, how everything changes, both the good and the bad. And the mother's just there in the moment, accepting things as they are. And the child with that pure, innocent presence, not worried about the past or the future. It's a reminder to just be present.
And it connects to other philosophies, too, like the Taoist principle of the soft overcoming the hard water shaping stone. It's like the mother's unwavering love and her ability to adapt. It's powerful. And from a secular Buddhist perspective, that simple act of caring for the child, it becomes this profound source of meaning in a world where true lasting refuge might not exist.
Right, those small acts of compassion become what really matters. And it highlights this paradox of being human. We're always trying to build these shelters, both physical and emotional, in a world where nothing lasts forever. The umbrella itself is temporary, but it provides that much-needed comfort in the moment.
Exactly. And the transcript asks those thought-provoking questions. Who do you offer shelter to? And who shelters you? Where do you find refuge that goes beyond the physical? the physical. It's all about connection, empathy, and those acts of kindness we show each other.
And that final point in the transcript, that call to offer shelter, whether it's through kindness or just listening to someone, it ties back into Camblin's whole thing about finding meaning in the everyday and acknowledging our shared humanity in this ever-changing world.
Totally. Okay, so let's wrap up with Camblin's later years and his legacy. Earl Staley's reflections on their friendship are really insightful. They were close shared studio space in Houston during those B&E productions and the holding firm days. It sounds like such a creative and inspiring time.
Yeah, Staley really valued Camblin's knowledge about drawing and composition too. And what's interesting is how their relationship changed over time. Camblin moves away, they lose touch for years, and then he comes back for a visit before he dies. And Staley senses this discomfort with his past. It's like Camblin was so focused on living in the present that he wasn't concerned with how he'd be remembered.
That makes sense. And then there's that whole thing with his Mr. Peanut persona, signing his work as anonymous and eventually giving away his treasure. It really reinforces that anti-ego thing and that mischievous trickster side of him. And even though people tried to put together a retrospective exhibition, there's still this sense of mystery around him.
He remains an enigma even after death. But Staley's words about how much Camblin meant to him as a friend and a mentor, they really speak volumes about the impact he had on those around him.
So to sum it all up, Bob Camblin was this enigmatic figure who created a diverse body of work, but was always grounded in this deep philosophical understanding, drawing from Eastern thought and existentialism. He was a collaborator, but also valued anonymity. And he leaves behind this legacy as this sort of mystical trickster figure in the art world.
And his work really challenges you, the listener, to question how you see things, to embrace the paradoxes of life, and to find your own meaning in it all. We hope this deep dive gave you some food for thought without overwhelming you with too much information.
And on that note, here's one last thought inspired by Camblin's philosophy. Think about those traps you encounter in your own life. Are they really obstacles? Or could they be opportunities for growth or a new perspective? How might embracing the fact that everything changes, like Camblin did, change how you experience things? Or maybe look at those everyday moments. What hidden meanings might you be missing? We encourage you to keep exploring Bob Camblin's art and the ideas we've discussed. There's so much to discover, and maybe even a little bit of that everyday enlightenment waiting for you.
I like that.
Yeah, me too.
All right, well, this was fun. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining me.